I can't believe a film about menstruation just won an Oscar. Those are the words of the director of Period, End of Sentence, a documentary about women's struggles and the stigma surrounding menstruation in India.
पढ़ते गए जब तक बड़ी क्लास में चलते गए पढ़ते गए फिर जब हमारे उसके बाद पीरियड होने लगे तो हमें दिक्कत आने लगी बहुत ज़्यादा पहले से हो जाओ
Can you explain what is this? Why are you not answering?
नहीं तो भगवान ने पता हो।
नाम सुना?
ये तो ये
घंटे वाले पीरियड्स जो मतलब ओरिजिन में चलते हैं।
Probably won't surprise you, but menstruation is accompanied by a cultural taboo in almost every society in the world. This is why it's important to talk about periods to help take away the stigma surrounding them. So joining me now, women's health expert Dr. Marjorie Dixon and the author of the book Heavy Flow, Breaking the Curse of Menstruation. We have Amanda Laird here. Talk about, looking at periods and menstruation from a cultural and global perspective, because you said something interesting to me while you were getting mic'd, and it's that we think we're all evolved when it comes to periods and menstruation just because we can buy tampons and buy maxi pads. That's not necessarily the reality, is it?
Yeah, I definitely don't think that that's true. When you hear about a menstrual myth, right, your brain automatically goes to, in places like India, where you might not be allowed to enter a temple when you're menstruating, or, in Nepal, women are still often relegated to menstrual huts, where when they're on their periods, they have to sleep and eat in a hut somewhere else in the community. Mm-hmm. And so those feel like they're very far away, right?
Yes.
But here in North America, we also have lots of menstrual myths, right? Like, we think that periods are supposed to be painful. We're still not taught that, it's a vital sign and it's a sign of health, and that we need our periods. Our periods are good for us.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the pain part of this, because you were surprised to see that so many women just thought it's supposed to hurt. I want to talk a little bit about the science of periods.
As a gynecologist, I see such a spectrum of people with their symptoms with periods. Mm-hmm. And some people have absolutely nothing. Like, your period shows up, I'm one of them. My mom's going to talk about me saying that on TV, but it doesn't matter. I'm talking about periods. It comes and it goes. I know it happens at a certain time, and it doesn't really bug me, and I bleed, and I figure it out, and then next month I'm doing something, I'm like, oh, it happened again. And I'm a gynecologist, right?
So you don't keep track.
I don't keep track because life is busy, but I must say that I come from a family of reproductive biologists. My dad taught reproductive biology in high school. So when I got my period, much as I told my mother, who was like, oh yeah, it happened, my dad was like, oh, that's so cool. He's like, oh, your central axis is finally alert again, right?
Oh my gosh.
So for me, it was like, I have a superpower, I did it. So, and then I became a doctor and a gynecologist and a reproductive biologist. So I think that being able to understand, yes, you have the cyclic thing that happens. It's part of your brain that tells your ovaries that, okay, it's starting to grow a follicle, you ovulate, and that gives you an opportunity to conceive or not. Yeah. And it prepares through hormones the lining of your uterus to grow and shed. Mm-hmm. It should not be painful. If it is particularly painful, when women are first starting this initiation of getting your period, it's okay to expect it to be irregular, to be painful, to be not predictable initially. That's your system priming itself, getting used to working.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, it should be fairly cyclic, regular, and not that painful. And for women who have a lot of pain around their periods, that's not normal. But paying attention to what's happening, how it happens, when it happens, what's a problem for you it happens, is actually a heralding sign that you need to see someone like me to talk about what you can do to empower yourself, to help yourself through it, so that you can be in charge of your period and that you can empower yourself through that experience. You're not at the mercy of your biology.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So go in there and say something, advocate for yourself with your healthcare professional.
Absolutely.
Now, Amanda, you're saying a lot of women are not doing that because they feel like it's sort of a normal thing. What I'm seeing now, and I see this on social media, is there seems to be a bit of a political movement now with having access to free materials for menstruation. Where do you see that we're at right now when it comes to that discussion?
Yeah, I think that these are exciting times. You know, here in Toronto, the city has just added a line item to the budget to provide menstrual products and shelters and drop-ins around the city, which is great because if you've never not had access to menstrual products, you're never going to think about that, right? Like, what would you do if you don't have a way to manage your period, right? And the reality is that people miss school, people miss work, they're missing out on life and on opportunities because they don't have a way to manage their period, or on the flip side, because they're in pain, right? If your periods are so painful that you can't go to work, you can't go to school, like that's really having an impact on your life.
Your activities of daily living are affected.
Yes, and I know many people who have periods like that and just sort of want to lock themselves in the closet in the dark and not talk to anybody.
And that's not normal.
And that's not normal.
Right? So what we've done by making the dialogue taboo or not being open and not necessarily honest about it, but just talking about it. Like, so I'm like the poster child for periods and gynecology. I'll like go, does anybody have a tampon? I work in an office with a gajillion women, which is what saves me. Does anybody have any menstrual products? And they're like, Dixon, tampons, there's more, right? So people have all kinds of options now, and we speak about it openly. I look at my daughter's generation, who she's 11, right? So the 11 and 12-year-olds, and she's like, I just want you to know, because I'm sporty, I am not going to use a pad because I can't bleed out. I got to run, I got to kick, I got to jump. So
she's already thinking about it.
She's
thinking about her options.
All of the options being covered. And it's interesting, the dialogue that they're having and her friends are having with me are so not what I was having with my mother and friends in the 80s. Are you kidding me?
No.
I was like, I got my period. Like, quiet. Now she's like, well, in preparation, I have a little pouch in my school bag. I'm going to put this and this and this in it. And I think that that's important also. I mean, you bring such light to the idea that the next generation needs to be comfortable having that conversation and needs to understand to come to us so that we can help them as professionals and as mothers, parents, guides to them as they enter into the foray of their reproductive lifespan, right?
There are whole businesses that are now doing like little period preparation boxes, and like they're cute. So you get like a little, here's some Midol, and here's like some pads, and like for your very first period, it's like a thing. Everything's for social media now, just so you know. It's almost like everything's an event. But I kind of think it's nice because it takes the shame away from it. It's like, let's celebrate this like your father did. Like I think that's pretty cool.
And there's studies that show that how you learn about menstruation actually informs your lifelong experience with it. So the fact that you had such a positive experience is probably what helped you be so positive throughout life, right? If you learn that it's something that's shameful, don't tell anybody, this needs to be kept hidden, then that's how you're going to proceed with the rest of your life. Right?
Before we go, I just want to hear quickly, how much flow is too much? And is there such thing? Just so that people know when they should actually see a physician.
There is such thing as too much flow, and we say if you're changing more than a pad an hour in a consistent fashion, if you're feeling lightheaded, dizzy, if your lips are not pink, if you lose not consciousness, but you feel like you might faint when you stand up suddenly for lightheaded, those kinds of things, those are signs of anemia, and that's not normal. You shouldn't be trying to keep up with your flow, not wearing white pants. If your life is altered by your period, speak to someone about it because we have the ability to manage it. And you should, and maybe it's signs of something else that's happening medically. We've talked about endometriosis, we've talked about fibroids, we've talked about polyps, and those things can be fixed. And as a gynecologist, when we fix it in patients, they're like, you've revolutionized, people say this, you've revolutionized my life. I'm like, really? I took out a polyp. But
it
can
helps.
because you don't have to deal with that anymore.